Jason, posing as a special ops soldier, quietly infiltrated the military training camp. Without any of the other soldiers noticing, he pulled out a vial from his sleeve and discreetly poured its contents into his assassination target's coffee. Just then, the drill sergeant suddenly ordered everyone to assemble. In a rush to warm up, John quickly downed the coffee and headed out with the squad for training. However, it wasn't long before John felt something was off with his body. Within minutes, he collapsed to the ground from poisoning and ultimately succumbed to the frigid cold, meeting his demise on the training field. The next day, this accidental freezing death made front-page news, and the mastermind behind it all was none other than Jason, a retired professional hitman. Originally, Jason and his girlfriend Mary were living a peaceful, happy life until an unexpected letter shattered their tranquility. The letter brought devastating news. His former partner Mike had been abducted. Mike was Jason's closest friend who had saved his life in critical moments. Upon learning of his brother's dire situation, Jason was enraged. Following the clues in the letter, he went to the designated location. After entering the room, he discovered a sheikh from a desert region waiting for him. The sheikh claimed to be an oil tycoon whose 3 sons had all been murdered, leaving only his youngest still by his side. Seeking revenge for his dead sons, he had taken Mike hostage and threatened Jason to eliminate the killers. The targets were 3 members of the Air Force. To avoid raising suspicion, the sheikh demanded that Jason disguise the assassinations as accidents. Upon completion, not only would Mike be released, but Jason would also be paid $3 as a reward. To save his friend, Jason had no choice but to agree, but he requested to see Mike first. The sheikh consented and sent someone to take Jason to the cell. After confirming Mike was unharmed, Jason planned to escape with him directly. He had the guard bring a glass of water and knocked him out when he was caught off guard. But as soon as the two rushed out of the cell, the sheikh's youngest son blocked their path. Left with no other option, Jason decided to carry out the mission as planned. To ensure foolproof execution, he contacted 2 trusted friends and promised them the entire $3 reward if they helped rescue Mike. Faced with this huge sum, the 2 gladly joined. Jason's first target was a retired Special Forces soldier. As night fell, he stealthily snuck into the target's mansion, pried off a bathroom tile, and fashioned it into a hammer. With preparations complete, the hunt officially began. Jason's fingertips barely grazed the brick in the tunnel when he suddenly lost his footing and plummeted. His partners immediately panicked, frantically calling out his name. When Jason regained consciousness, he found himself lying amidst a pile of bones. A few days earlier, Jason was on his way to KFC when 2 burly men stopped him and started smashing his car. Jason angrily cursed at them but didn't dare to fight back because he owed them money for his hair transplant. Jason pleaded for more time, but to his surprise, they not only refused but also brandished iron clubs, threatening him. At that moment, a BMW stopped not far away. Jason tried to seize the opportunity to escape, but before leaving, the men smashed another car window and warned him to pay up soon. The driver of the BMW was Jason's ex-girlfriend, Mary. Learning that Jason was having a hard time, she offered him a chance to make money. As they walked into KFC together, Mary revealed that the business she mentioned was robbing a bank vault. Jason hesitated at first, but Mary said she had received reliable information that a bank's security system was malfunctioning and wouldn't be fixed for a week, a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Thinking about his mounting debts and his wife and children at home, Jason finally agreed. The next day, Jason accompanied Mary to the bank. On the surface, Mary was there to withdraw money, but in reality, she was covering for Jason as he scouted the internal structure. Meanwhile, their accomplices quietly took photos outside the bank, documenting the surrounding environment. Once all the intelligence was ready, they began planning their operation. Jason noticed a vacant store next to the bank and rented it as a base. After his teammates put up a store under renovation sign, they entered the basement with tools, intending to dig a tunnel into the vault. However, just as the digging was halfway through, there was a sudden knock at the door, causing everyone to become extremely tense. Jason sent his partner Paul to check, only to discover that the visitor was a police officer. Paul put on a calm facade, explaining that they were working overtime to renovate the store, hoping to open for business soon. The officer entered to investigate, but fortunately didn't discover the underground tunnel. He only reminded them that the renovation noise was too loud and had already prompted complaints from upstairs residents. Jason quickly apologized with a smile, promising to lower the volume, and managed to send the officer away. Just as everyone breathed a sigh of relief, there was another knock at the door. Paul nervously opened it, only to find that it was a delivery person bringing the KFC that his teammate had ordered. This series of events made Jason decide that they must arrange for someone to keep watch, so he sent Sean to monitor from the building across the street. However, Sean was so bored that he often chatted idly on the walkie-talkie, not realizing that their conversations were being monitored. Hearing someone mention the word police, a neighbor immediately became alert. Inside the tunnel, Jason was digging with gusto when suddenly, with a loud bang, he fell into a hollow space. Upon awakening, Jason was startled to discover that he was surrounded by skeletons. Borrowing a flashlight, he realized that this was an ancient burial chamber that happened to lead directly to the bank vault. For them, this was equivalent to saving more than half the work. Jason was overjoyed and immediately began breaking through the wall to widen the path. But just then, Sean, who was upstairs, asked through the walkie-talkie, "How much longer until we dig through to the vault?" This sentence was accidentally overheard by a neighbor, who immediately recorded the conversation and called the police to report that someone was planning to rob the bank. Upon hearing the recording, the police were shocked and quickly mobilized forces, preparing to surround the bank. He was a prisoner that even the prison guards were terrified of. and the only man who could rock a menacing aura with a bald head. Jason had killed 23 people with his bare hands, and no one dared to approach him even when he was handcuffed. To contain this dangerous individual, the most specialized cell was necessary. This is a prison located in England, housing all sorts of extremely dangerous criminals, gang leaders, and cold-blooded killers. But the new inmate arriving today was a bit different. He was John, the former captain of the England national soccer team. John, once basking in glory, had achieved fame at a young age, surrounded by luxury cars and beautiful women, a true winner in life. Unfortunately, his career came to a premature end due to his involvement in match fixing. Not long ago, he was sentenced to 3 years in prison for drunk driving and assaulting a police officer. As soon as he entered the prison, he faced mockery and insults from other inmates.
73 international appearances, and you saw your country out in a game? That's unbloody English, that is.
Gang boss Paul quickly sought him out. Back then, John had intentionally lost to the German team, causing Paul to lose everything. Paul declared that he wouldn't let John off easy. Not only did every inmate want to teach him a lesson, but the prison guards also looked down on him. They beat the crap out of him at their first meeting and assigned him the dirtiest job, cleaning up feces that others had thrown out the window in the middle of the night. Here, he was destined to struggle with every step. The next day, the warden called him in for a talk. It turned out that he was putting together a prison guard soccer team and wanted John to be the coach, with the goal of playing in the professional league and even competing in the 2028 Olympics. This sounded like an impossible dream, and John refused on the spot. Moreover, the prison guard captain had already warned him that if he dared to accept, he would make John die a miserable death. He didn't want to steal the captain's coaching title, or else he'd truly have no way out. But rejecting the warden would also lead to unpleasant consequences. As expected, after returning to his cell, John was beaten up and dragged into solitary confinement. His mental state completely collapsed. He just wanted to serve his sentence in peace. Why were so many people targeting him? At this moment, a fellow inmate gave him an idea. Why not form a team of prisoners and compete against the prison guard team? This way, he could help the warden train the team without offending the guard captain. This proposal was accepted by everyone. The warden was satisfied, and the captain nodded in agreement. John suddenly became the warden's favorite, and no one bothered him anymore. But a new problem arose: where to find players? These inmates either couldn't play soccer or had flashy moves but always missed the ball. The only decent players in the prison were the gang boss's underlings. Borrowing them, given John's status, was simply a pipe dream. Just as John was worrying about the selection of players, he was attacked by the gang boss's henchmen. Fortunately, the prison guards arrived in time to save his life. John could have reported them, but he lied that his face was cut while shaving, concealing the truth for the two attackers. With such a display of loyalty, the gang boss forgave him and even sent his underlings to join John's team. The player issue was resolved, but they still lacked a goalkeeper. Before becoming a murderer, Jason was a semi-professional goalkeeper. John went to ask for his help, but Jason had long lost interest in being a goalkeeper. However, with just one sentence from John, he was successfully persuaded.
We're playing the guards. Hey, I'm with you.
The team was finally assembled, and a special hellish training was about to begin. Jason originally just wanted to quietly fill up his tank, but unexpectedly found himself surrounded by a group of killers. Sensing their malicious intent, he hoped to finish fueling and leave the place as quickly as possible. However, one of them directly turned off the switch. Not wanting to stir up trouble, Jason had no choice but to silently turn the switch back on and continue refueling.
So I can kick your fucking ass up over your shoulders.
A few days earlier, Jason's daughter Mary was playing on the playground when a classmate suddenly snatched her hat. Mary asked him to return it, but the boy not only refused, but also pushed her to the ground.
What are you gonna do then? Cry?
Mary stood up and warned the boy, but he still wanted to get physical. As a result, she fought back and knocked him to the ground. Mary picked up her hat and left without looking back, while the boy's nose was bleeding profusely. Due to this conflict, the teacher called in the parents of both sides. When Jason arrived at the school, he ran into the boy's parents. The boy's mother was so emotionally charged that she even wanted to hit Jason, but fortunately, the teacher stopped her. Thinking the matter was over, Jason took his daughter and left the school, only to run into the boy's parents again right outside the gate. Jason remained polite, not wanting to escalate the situation, but the boy's father insisted on provoking him and even tried to launch a sneak attack from behind. He ended up being subdued by Jason with a single move. Luckily, the sheriff arrived just in time to defuse the situation. You thought this was the end of it? Not quite. The cold glare Anna shot at Jason was the real spark that ignited the battle. The only reason she was so arrogant was because of her brother Sean. Sean was a notorious local gang leader, known for his ruthless methods. Anyone who crossed him rarely met a good end. Upon hearing that his sister had been bullied, Sean immediately gathered a few burly men, intending to settle the score with Jason. Meanwhile, Jason, completely unaware of the situation, was accompanying his daughter to practice horseback riding. Watching his obedient and well-behaved daughter, he couldn't help but cry tears of joy. Since his wife's early passing, the father and daughter had been depending on each other and had a deep bond. The next day, when Jason dropped his daughter off at school, the teacher informed him that the father of the boy from yesterday had been hospitalized. Realizing that he might have been too heavy-handed, Jason personally went to the man's workplace to apologize and offered to treat him to KFC the following day. Upon hearing about the KFC treat, the man immediately smiled and forgave Jason. What Jason didn't know was that his wife had already arranged for assassins. Right after leaving, Jason went to a gas station. Just as he was about to refuel his BMW, a red truck pulled up beside him, and several killers got out surrounding Jason. They were the assassins sent by Sean,